Okay, so for just a morning chat between the two of us, Marcie Denton
Hi there.
and Ginger Bowler here, we had another wonderful question that came in. We get it quite often, and we do encourage you all to send us questions, by the way. But someone asked, well, first of all, they said, I love your podcast. I'm listening to them and I'm learning a lot of, and it's exciting about all the benefits of light therapy or photobiomodulation. I'm a wellness coach. How would I use this in my business? And you and I have used it in different ways and still do. So I'm going to let you start and then I'll jump in how I use it every day in my business here in Boulder, Colorado, and you're in Texas. So take it
All
away.
right. I had an opportunity to open an office in a health and wellness gym with everything in, the kitchen sink. I mean, there was a swimming pool and a big, huge sauna type hot tub thing for working with elders and their muscles and all of that. And they would do work with elders that were, needing more comfortable type swimming. And then there were those that were doing it for, cardiovascular. It was a huge pool. But the purpose of the place was health and wellness. So they had exercises and they had Pilates and they had massage therapists, and a room opened up and they were gracious enough to let me rent it. And I just loved it and had many, many opportunities to teach through their place. And so if you're looking at a business, you are also looking at generating clients. And that means your exposure needs to be in the world that you're in, which is health and wellness. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about where to put time and energy into a location. And so I was just, it worked out beautifully. I do a talk on pain and, photobiomodulation. And if you want to see me, here's my card, here's my webpage. My webpage had a calendar on it, and they could schedule appointments with me. And it just worked out beautifully, but it also was limiting. And the reason it was limiting is I had a life. And 24/7 as a therapist, a light therapy practitioner, is not the same as having other activities in a life. And I had more people that wanted to come to see me and use my equipment. They did not want to purchase it to go home. They wanted to be doing their water aerobics and then doing a session of light therapy. They wanted to have it intertwined into their health and wellness program. So I was pretty creative, and I ended up with a video type PowerPoint. And one of my clients was my guinea pig and my model. And we walked through how to set the equipment up, how to push the buttons, how to clean the device and put it away, and how to schedule their appointment to use the room, because I wasn't going to be there. Well, how did I keep my equipment safe? I took the electricity, I put it in a gun box, a box for a pistol. It has a lock. I gave people a fob that would open it. And so when they scheduled certified people according to my plan that had the way to get into the room, because the room was open, they used the way to get into the equipment. They set it up. They used it for whatever they needed it, as if they were home. They put it away. They wiped it down just like they were supposed to. And I guess I had 20 or 30 paying clients that I never saw except once, and maybe we set up a revisit every 2 weeks or every three, depending on what they wanted. But the initial visit, of course, was intake. The initial visit were the informed consents. The initial visit was, what are their real issues? The initial visits, and there were maybe one or two where I made a decision on where they should be using the light and made a chart for them. So they had a file that they could follow, even if they were buying equipment and taking it and having it at home. Be the same thing I'd do for somebody that had their own equipment. Their file was stated in the office, but they could get to the equipment when they signed up for the time. It was beautiful. They loved it. I loved it. And it certainly has, it has legs. It has, it's really something to be thinking about if you have space and time.
Well, and obviously, I mean, I don't know that this is obvious, but they were using a pad-based system
Yes,
that they could have owned or rented and taken to their own home. But in this case, because it's excellent quality equipment, a lot of people don't necessarily want to shell out that kind of money, or they're not in the position to do that. Or, yeah. So this made photobiomodulation available to them. And in this case, it was the pad based system, the
correct.
Enlight
There
system.
were a couple of people who had grandkids all around, and they didn't. There was another issue besides finance to have their own equipment. It just ended up being much better for them to be able to use it when they were at the gym.
Okay,
So,
that's a very practical reason. So in my case, I started with a pad based system, and I just, at the time, I was not only teaching quantum biofeedback, but I was also seeing some clients. And so I would just use the light therapy, with them before or during their biofeedback session, because it's very relaxing. Actually, in the beginning, I always used it first because a lot of things that we might have had to address in the biofeedback session seemed like it disappeared. There was a lot less work if I did a 20-minute session on with the pad-based system first. So that's how I first started using it. And then so we're just talking, folks, about the practical use of photobiomodulation in your wellness practice. What happened with me is I started to sell the equipment. I was using it, and then people wanted it for home use, and we started selling it, and we've sold a lot of equipment because if anything that I use that I believe in, I can sell it. I'm not going to sell something, and I know you're the same way, if we don't, if we're not sure that it works. So, I became very sure. I had so many great results with my family, with myself, and so we started to sell the pad-based system. And now, fast forward, whatever, 13, 15 years later, and not only are we still using the pad-based system, and I've used a couple of different companies, but have always used some of the Enlight therapy system. And now I also use Infrasculpt. I use the Infrasculpt for body contouring. So it's considered a laser, but it's the LED, laser, whatever, so that we're targeting fat cells. And just because we're targeting fat cells or using wavelengths that are targeting the fat cells so that the fat drains and it makes the cell wall more permeable, the fat drains, along with it goes the toxins. We're also using wavelengths for toning and tightening. However, what happens in my clinics in Boulder, Colorado, the United States, that a lot of people that initially come in for body contouring will come and maybe they get their body to the place that they wanted. They don't need to lose anymore. Or maybe they use it just to kickstart their whole process for wellness and for having a smaller belly or whatever. But they come back and back because of all the other benefits. So for pain and circulation and mood and you name it, sports injury or training, recovery, etc. Having my great interest in understanding energy, I'll tell you that whether it's the pad-based system or the bars or whatever, or I see the energy field with people, just all kinds of good things, like things getting cleared out of the energy field that are bothering us, because the little darkness that or big darkness that sometimes hangs around and causes us lots of disturbances cannot tolerate that much light. So all kinds of things are happening on many different levels. Now we've had different things as far as, again, we're talking about business and how you would incorporate this into business. So one of the ways is that not only can you use it for your clients with pain and circulatory issues and body contouring issues and mood, whatever, you can sell equipment, you can rent equipment. There's, what am I forgetting? You can open a clinic yourself. Well, obviously. There are torches, there are panels, there are beds, there are PEDs. We don't sell the laser for home use, but sell it to other, clinics. Absolutely.
There is on the market cold laser still. I started out with the cold laser, which is a technology that began I think it was at the beginning of the whole industry of light therapy. And so in those, I noticed that they're still being sold on the market, in the marketplace.
Right.
So the opportunity to introduce people to the technology, to the benefits of light in a way that they maybe have just read a little bit about. But if you can introduce them to the benefits personally, then it sets up another system within your business, which is, like Ginger was saying, is providing the technology to your clients is a whole nother aspect of business as a therapist. And I did that a little bit. I'm not such a good seller.
No, and my thing, you and I, Marcie, have spent so much of our career in education, and our light energy training seminars. So they can reach us at lightenergytrainingseminars.org, to see the website. Or no, is that right? Forget it. I'll put it on the screen. Lightenergytrainingseminars.us, I think it is, or letseducation.org. We've spent most of our career in education. And I feel like that for myself, and I feel like this for you, that we can make a bigger impact educating people than seeing one-on-one clients. I still do some seeing one-on-one clients, and I love my clients. You get to know them because they're coming back and coming back and coming back. But over time, usually those clients end up buying a device because as much as they love you, they're now your friend, because, they've come back so many times, and they usually will end up buying a system, and you see them then once a year.
I have another parenthesis.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so within your understanding of what's going on, you can coach.
Absolutely.
That is one of the benefits of the technology that we have. And that is that, yes, it's intense, one person as a client, and you have slots for 5 a day, maybe. If you do more than that, like you need a life too. So having one-on-ones is great to train people to use, but then after that, the continuing seeing, taking your day and moving it into a one-on-one situation is not effective to use your talent and your wisdom and your understanding. But you can set up coaching. So as a coach for many years, and now I'm really intently coaching the cognitive decline folk that are using it for reversal of Alzheimer's, which is really fun.
And
You
very important.
and very important. We
And
have
very
a couple
important.
of podcasts on that. But in terms of our question today was, how do you put this into practice? That is an aspect of there are ways of being a coach that you can go, and sometimes they have classes for different business coaches, but there are ways that you can reach out to us, and we have done this enough that we can coach you into how to do your business. And in coaching, there's some things that you need to know how to do and not do. And so we're open to that part of our world in terms of our education. We have done this quite a few years. And there were times when we were pretty much in the sand. We didn't have concrete in our boots, but we had sand. And I feel like I have wings now because of the value that seems to have touched the hearts of many, many people. It is not uncommon for someone to have become aware of light, photobiomodulation, red light. They call it red light on the internet. And knowing that now we have a chance to really help so many more because there's an openness to it. You're in a really good space and time. If this is where you are right now in your understanding and your belief in the system it's just really a wonderful time for you to be involved. It's such a gift.
Right.
Ginger
And
and I both
go
believe
ahead.
the value of light as a piece of the sacred and a piece of what the body does to heal when it receives the light is bigger than just physical. And we are committed to bringing that aspect to reality. And it's really a pleasure to do that.
Yeah, we're more than just our physical form. We're mental, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, you know. And the light penetrates all the levels of our being. So if you're thinking about a wellness practice, adding, this to a wellness practice, our other guidance would be wherever you get your equipment, because this podcast is all about education. We're not about, this is not a commercial to sell you equipment. Wherever you get your light therapy equipment, just make sure it's a reputable company that you can get in touch with if you have any questions or issues about your equipment. I mean, light is good for us, but just because it looks exactly like someone else's equipment doesn't mean it functions exactly the same way, or that the manufacturers took all the safety precautions that they could have. In another one of our podcasts, David Malone, who is a manufacturer, goes into some of those issues that, yeah, it's great that the FDA opened this up and reclassified photobiomodulation as general wellness because it's so safe and effective. But all that extremely expensive testing and getting the certification for the devices that companies had to go through and no longer have to go through, that's why we want to be even more careful of the equipment that we're using, making sure that it's a very high quality and that, the company will, support you and stand behind you and all of that. But light is good for us. One other thing I think I wanted to say in closing, if we don't come up with something after this, is we get a lot of questions from people who have bought light therapy equipment and have no idea, I mean, how to use it, why to use it. It was an impulse buy or somebody told them, and maybe they're loving the effect that they're getting, but now their husband or their wife is mad about it or wants them to explain it, and they have no idea. So I'll say, go listen to our podcast. We start from A and go all the way to Z, really explaining it. We've got a lineup of more wonderful scientists and people who use light therapy with all kinds of other things. So I'm going to be interviewing Barbara Krutchkopf, who is actually the president of the board of Advanced Natural Health Sciences, and her use of, I mean, she's developed patient funding research. She's worked on that with light therapy and adipose stem cells, and she's doing all kinds of, great and wonderful things out there in the industry with photobiomodulation and other modalities. So I'll be, interviewing her. We have some other people, that are on they're top of the field.
So Barbara was the director of my IRB that I received to do research on photobiomodulation and inflammation. She was so wonderful.
Yeah,
Her
she's
understanding is
awesome.
just fantastic.
She's awesome. I'm hoping to get Dr. Luis Romero. He's got 5 doctorates in MD from Harvard and whatever, and he is just crazy excited about light therapy. And I'm reaching out to him. I love him very much, and he just sent me a friendly chat over the weekend, but I didn't go back and say, "Hey, can I interview you again?" So I have to do that. But we're just going to keep rolling them in. There's other people that are already lined up. Some of them I can't remember their names, but I'm going to get to them. So we're just going to. And Marcie, I think we should just do more of these little question answer things. You all, please send us your questions so we can do more of this. I think I've said this on multiple podcasts, but we started this whole podcast thing because I didn't want Marcie, myself, or any of our colleagues to leave this earth plane with the knowledge that we have inside of us when we could leave it for the world and for the future generations, because we spent our entire life learning and knowing what we know. Let's see if we can pass it on
Ginger
and
Bowler
make a
has
difference.
a doctorate
So
in
with
energy
that,
medicine and is a
let's keep
certified
it
light
light.
therapy instructor, biofeedback instructor, and co-founder of the Light Energy Training Seminars certification program. You can send us an email with your questions and comments to podcast@letskeepitlight.com, and be sure to visit us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And remember, let's keep it light.